Hey there, fellas. Mr. Halter here, and we are in Samuel chapter 12. We are at the end of the old man's life, and he's about to drop a few final bombs on the boys. And so I cannot read it because I left my glasses. It's too small. But I've been meditating on it, so I wrote down just some thoughts. Why don't you guys go ahead and make sure you take 5 minutes here and just read it, maybe read it twice, and then maybe come back to my thoughts. But chapter 12, 1 through 6, Samuel starts off, and this really is kind of his last sort of his send-off words. He's really up in age, and he's done a lot to restore and rescue, if you will, the people of Israel. He's been a good judge, and he, before he drops the bombs, he wants to make sure that they understand that he's been walking with them in integrity. And so he basically says, guys, have I taken any donkeys from you? Have I used and abused my leadership? Have I been guilty of being greedy with anything, or have I just served you? And all the men said, no, bro, you've been a fantastic leader and we trust you. You've not done anything against us. And he said, well, good, because I'm glad you feel that way, because what I'm going to say to you now, I just need to just get it off my chest and speak freely. Little note, each of these points some of them relate, some of them don't, but one of the most important things for all of us when we, especially when we're trying to speak to our sons or daughters, a good friend, even our own spouse, just anytime we have to be honest, it is so important that we walk with integrity. People respect what they respect, and they don't respect what they don't respect. And if we've kind of been a jumbled mess of inconsistency, oftentimes when we try to, even when we're right and we're bringing truth, it just will fall on deaf ears. So, guys, it does matter. It really does matter, the integrity in which we walk when we want to help other people. Verse 18. He then goes into, okay, so if you guys are feeling okay about me, let's go back and revisit the whole thing where you guys wanted a king. And he kind of walks them back through their history. He reminds them that Moses and Aaron walked them out of Egypt, and that during that time, even though they should have been excited, they weren't. They were unfaithful, and they turned to other gods and idols. Good way to think of an idol, guys, because I know most of us don't think that we're idol worshipers, but an idol is anything that you put hope in, anything that you put your confidence in, and that you spend a lot of your time thinking about and pursuing and thinking that those things are going to save you. So that's an idol. So you might think, well, what are those things that I'm constantly thinking about and constantly worrying about, thinking that they're going to actually secure my way for 2024. And you will quickly see that we are all full of idols, mostly money, comfort, ease, and so sometimes our jobs can be an idol. Sometimes we make our kids an idol. We got them in every sport. We're paying out the wazoo to keep our kids keeping up with the Joneses. Sometimes even our children can become an idol. Some people make church an idol, to be honest with you. They make their religious life an idol. So anything can be an idol. It's what you put your trust in, and what you put your confidence in, what you mostly talk about. So if you find out, or you think about what you've been saying or what you always want to talk about, and it's mostly political stuff, then that's your idol. Could be a political leader, but God basically says, through Samuel, I brought you out, and you guys just quickly turn to every other, like I proved to you what I could do in bringing you out, like it was my powerful hand that brought you out. And then within a week or two, you suckers are worrying about who's going to protect you. So you asked me for a king. And so if you remember the story, God sort of gives them what they want. And it's a good reminder that God's, he's not the type of God that just immediately argues with you and doesn't give you. Oftentimes he will give you what you want, even if it's wrong. So be careful what you're asking for. They wanted a king because they thought that maybe, having a king would give them a better shot against the enemies, or more security. And so God goes, okay, I gave one to you, and that still didn't work. And so the point of what Samuel's saying right there is it does not matter if you have a king or you have a judge or you have no king or you have whatever government you have around you. What matters, he says, is actually to live faithfully unto God. That's it. And you can have a fantastic king, and if you're not faithful, then it's not going to go well for you. You might have no king, but if you walk, as remember Joshua said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Doesn't matter what anybody does around us. Doesn't matter what government we're under, whether it's Democrat, Republican, whatever. If we don't personally walk with faithfulness, it's just not going to go well. So great little reminder there that our obedience is like the one consistent strain that always keeps us in God's will. If you obey, you're always going to be in God's will. When you stray, then you're kind of going to get what you are asking for. And then verse 21, he said, your idols cannot save you because they're not real. So just again, a reminder that the reason why nothing can save is nothing is materially real. God is the only real source that we have in life. And it's been proven over and over. He just kind of is always faithful. And verse 22 probably is I guess it's the center of the cinnamon roll, as we say. And he says this, he says, for the sake of the great name of God, he will not reject his people because you are his own. This is like fantastic. God's basically going, look, prior to the king, you were in bondage because you guys were knuckleheads and you got yourself all tied up in Egyptian overlords. Then I got you out of that, and you turned to Baal and all sorts of other gods. So I sent you some prophets and some judges, and Samuel, he got you out of it under my blessing. And then you still turned to other idols. And then you asked me for a king. And it's basically you've kept rejecting me all the way through your life. But for this reason, for the sake of the great name of God, he will not reject his people. What's that mean? Is that because of God's nature, God cannot, I guess it's hard to say he cannot, but according to his nature, he will never go against his nature. And his nature is never going to be to reject us because he cares about what his reputation is. And since the whole story of the gospel is about God's grace extended to us through Jesus, what he did on the cross, God's never going to let anybody go, well, yeah, but you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. He's going to always be able to say, no, I gave you my very best. I gave my one and only son that whoever would believe in him would not perish. So God's going, like, for my reputation, my name, it doesn't matter how many times you reject me or turn to idols, according to my name, that I don't ever want to be slandered as like all the other gods, I'm going to always extend grace to you guys. Which, for if you've been stuck in patterns of habitual sin, sometimes you actually will believe that God will eventually turn his heart away from you, or that he's had enough and he's finally going to give it to you. But apparently he's not, because according to his great name, he's not going to ever reject you. And because of this, because you're also one of his own, you're like his son. So if you've ever had a son or a daughter, even a dog, a little Labrador retriever, because they're your own, they might make you mad, they might make you want to boot it across the room, but it's yours, especially if you're a son. Guys, it's just a fantastic reminder right now, just to remember that God loves you because he made you. You're an image bearer, even though sin screws up the image over and over and over, and we feel like we're completely rejectable. You're still a son, so he's just not going to turn his back on you. So the grace of God is always there for you. Just a good reminder. And then finally, in verse 23, even Samuel says, hey, so based on what God is doing for you guys, that he's never going to turn his back, I also am not going to fail to pray for you guys. So Samuel must have got to the point where he's like, these suckers, God, just keep turning to idols and rejecting you. So maybe even Samuel got to where he was like, I don't even want to be in the game trying to help these guys. But all of a sudden Samuel realizes that if God's been faithful, we have to always be faithful to pray for our brothers. So guys, again, a little reminder, there are people in your life, especially family members, that you've given up on. Maybe you've even begun to disdain them. You don't even like being around them. It's okay. It's like natural. But if God has been that faithful to never reject us, and we always have to stay faithful not to reject people either, and to keep praying. That's our stance when you got a brother or sister or family member or boss or coworker that's just boiling your water. Guys, stay faithful to just pray. And then at the end, Samuel finally gives just a final wrap up. Just be faithful to God and enjoy the grace that he's given you and move forward. I mean, if there's anything that we're going to learn as we go forward, is that it doesn't matter if you ask for a king and king lets you down, or you've been unfaithful, just keep moving forward. What makes a Christian man is not that they're perfect, it's that they actually keep going. Okay? What makes a Christian man is not that those men don't have fights. It's that what makes a Christian man unique is that we keep fighting. So guys, don't give up. Let's move forward. Let's look behind us and go, that's done. I'm not going to look at all the junk I've done in the past. It's the best way to respect what God's done for us is to actually move forward. So, all right, you guys have a great week. We'll see you.